Bushle, we'll just wait 5 minutes to see who else joins us. Thanks for arriving early to the lesson. Okay, guys, let's get started. Thank you for joining me in the lecture today. Today is the last lecture on math literacy. Before we get started with today's lecture, I said that I would show you, or I would learn how to do this in Excel. And I have learned it so I can show it to you. Let me close this. So some of you were asking me about this y-axis and how we change the numbers on the y-axis. If we would like to reflect different values or a higher number or lower percentage, etc. So what we have to do is we will create our graph. Okay, here we have our bar graph. And what we'll do is we'll click here into this y-axis. And then you will see that this option comes up where it says format axis. Right. So when you see this coming up, or even if it doesn't come up, you can click here and you can go to format axis, and then it's going to open up on the right-hand side. And then here where it says bounds, minimum and maximum. So this is where you change the y-axis amount. So for example, let's say that I want it to be 80, and then I'll type in 80, and then let's see if I can do that, 80. We can see that the y-axis changes appropriately to the highest point or the maximum bound being 80. So I said that I wanted it to reflect 100, so I can put 100 there, and there we go. It changes to 100. Okay, if I did this, I just want to see this. If I change this to 20, exactly. So here we go. So if we wanted it to show from 0 to have the spacing options from in 20s, for example, then we would go here to units and change the major. So it will be 20. So you see 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Okay, so it is here in the format axis options where we can change the maximum, the minimum, and the rate of which we want to see the change on the y-axis. Any questions about that? Alrighty, so then we can get into today's lecture. Let me save this and close it. All right, so like I said, today is the last lecture for math literacy. It's not very difficult, to be honest, but it's great to see so many students in the class. Well, not so many, but more than I had yesterday. Yesterday, I had 3 students in one of the groups. Okay. So did anyone have any questions from the previous lecture? Any questions about Excel? Have you tried creating any graphs or tables? What I want to say to you is that some of you have been emailing me your assignments. Just make sure that your graph is like visible, or your line graph is visible, right? So that I can clearly see the line. It's not in like a different color format, like there's a green black background or a red background, etc. I just want to see the line on the chart, okay? And the line must have clear demarcations. Okay, so yes, questions, or can we move on to today's lecture? Yes, Noboshle?
Ma'am, I wanted you to please explain again how we move the graph from Excel to Word.
Okay, so
because we're using Word.
All right, so let me just go to that quickly. Right, so I'll open up my Excel document here. So it's fairly simple, but I will show you. So guys, what you got to do is you just click here and you say copy. That's it. Okay, so you're copying information and then you're transferring it to a Word document. So let me open a Word document here. And then all you're doing, so this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You're saying paste, right? So you just Control V, okay, Nobushle? So it's Control C to copy and then Control V to paste. But then also you need to make sure that you wrap the text tightly. Okay, so why do I wrap it tightly? Because I want to be able to move this graph anywhere in my document with ease. because obviously this is a different question number, like question 3 or question 4, etc. So if we wrap it tightly, we can move it around with ease and we can write anywhere else in the document. Does that answer your question, Nobushle? And then also, guys, don't forget, I want to see the x-axis, the labeling of the the labeling of the x-axis, the labeling of the y-axis, okay, the chart title. Okay, just remember all those things when you are creating your line graph or chart, etc. Alrighty, so let me just minimize that in case somebody else has questions. Alrighty, so we are on pages 364 of 372 of chapter 10. Okay, so before I tell you about budgeting, who can tell me what a budget is in their own words? Yes, Kylie, so?
Okay, so for me, what I think like a budget is like it's where you have like your income, your expenses, and where you plan where your money is going in, how your money is going, how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, where you're spending what money, kind of thing.
Yeah, good, excellent. And I see some answers in the chat as well. Fantastic. So good answers, guys. Great stuff. So a budget is used to help people plan their finances and use their money, and can be set up for either individuals or businesses. A budget is an estimate of the balance between the amount of income earned and the expected expenses for a particular period, i.e. a month. So predicting the amount of money you will receive and spend in a month, you can see if you are able to afford the items you would like to buy and perhaps reach specific goals. In a business context, it can be determined whether a business will be profitable. So while budgets can be drawn up manually, it makes more sense these days to rely on software such as Excel, as well as other applications that are now available for electronic devices. So another question that I have, why do you think budgeting is important? Firstly, let's say for personal use. Why is it necessary? Okay, good, so that you don't overspend. That's definitely a reason. So in South Africa, a lot of people are relying on credits. Okay, so like now it's not good because people get into a lot of debt. I know some people who have like 30,000 Rand on their credit card. Okay, I can't even spend 30,000 Rand on my credit card, but they have this kind of debt and then it becomes stressful and it's difficult to pay off. Okay, so we must make sure that we are thrifty, we know what we're doing, how to keep track of our finances. Good, Cindy. If you're saving for something important, you don't overspend. Exactly. Okay, so it's good to keep track of our money, to know where it's going, why it's going there, etc., etc. As a student, what would you say are your key expenses? You can write it to me in the chat. Good, Shirley. Yes, we must create some kind of financial stability. So we must learn how to manage our money. I can tell you that I am not very good at managing my money, and I'm being very honest, because I spend a lot of money on food. So what are your key expenses as a student? So when I was like a full-time student, I think like I used to spend money on food, yeah, food, and then airtime, and that was basically it when I was a student. And then yes, transport money as well. But like with UNISA, since we don't really need to go to campus, I would usually just be going to the library a few times a week. Yeah, exactly. That was me as well, transport and food. Yeah. So, and what about airtime for data? No? Yeah, Wi-Fi, exactly. You need data, right? Me too. Like nobody can live without their phones these days. And also like everything is being done digitally. So we definitely always need data. Cool. So yes, we spoke about Excel. So now Excel and these other programs are quite convenient because they make it easier for us to make calculations and record our data. So we're going to have a look at our personal budgets, okay? And then we're going to see the income and the expenses for a month. I did put it on 2 slides because it was very difficult to put on one. So here we see this is January, and we can see the salary, the interest, the refunds, the pension, etc. Okay, and then the total. And then we also have the savings. So this is all our incomes basically. And then emergency fund, transfer to savings, retirements, investments, education, other. And that's 1,655. And then we get to our expenses. And then we see here we have the home loan, rental, electricity. Okay, so this is probably for someone who lives in who has a family. And then we have transportation, car payments, auto insurance, fuel, and public transport, etc. Okay, so when it comes to budgeting, we'll always have it in this way, where we list our incomes first, and then we list all our expenses. If you did accounting, you will know about this, income and expenses, etc., etc. Any questions, comments? Yes, Cindy Gauteng, that was my expense when I was a student, Gauteng. Because I would take the Gauteng from Midrand to the library. Questions, comments? Nothing? What happens when your expenses are more than your salary? So that means that your debt or your debt is exceeding your incomes, and this is a major problem. So you need to sort of see what you can do, what expenses you can cut down, so that it's the other way around. Okay. So that's essentially what happens in South Africa, unfortunately, Shirley. People don't earn enough, and this is because there's no jobs. So the companies can pay people whatever they feel like, and then it's not enough for people to survive. So they end up taking credit and credit cards and living off credit, and it's just a horrible cycle. I even tell some of my friends who own businesses, I say to them, especially the ones in South Africa, please pay your staff more and pay less tax to the government. Okay, so we should try to encourage people, and I'm encouraging you, pay your staff more if you ever open a business, and pay the government less. Okay, it works out that way when we do taxation. All right, cool. So let's continue. So personal budgeting can be quite flexible, as money can be moved around and expenses can be cut quite easily. However, this is not the case with business budgeting. So in your opinion, how would you say business budgeting is different from personal budgeting? Anyone? In terms of quantity of expenses and income, good. I think business, you can never cut out expense, it's a must. Okay, you don't have to take out a loan, but yes, most businesses do take out loans. There are no home loans, but there are other kinds of loans, Cindy. There are food expenses in a business. They do have food expenses. But yeah, those are good answers in the chat, good guesses and good tries, guys. Great. Yeah. So business budgeting has to take many factors into consideration. For example, paying suppliers and staff, as well as other non-negotiable expenses. Yes, so that's what we're talking about, non-negotiable, where you have to pay. So you can't just defer the payment, okay? You have to make payment. And I was telling the other class yesterday, this was one of the reasons that many businesses closed down during COVID, because they simply were not getting enough income to pay the expenses, just their fixed expenses. Okay, so we get fixed expenses and we get variable expenses, and they just couldn't even afford to pay their fixed expenses, especially in the restaurant industry. Lots of restaurants closed down. So business budgeting, therefore, considers the long term, with financial planning usually done annually instead of monthly. So yes, you'll find in businesses that they sit down and they they plan everything out for the whole year. They're going to say, I'm spending 2,000 Rand, or okay, that's a lot, 1,000 Rand a month on tea and coffee and maybe entertainment expenses, etc. And then they're going to go 25,000 Rand is going to go for salaries. Let's say it's a small business, etc. Okay. So many of the principles of personal and business budgeting are the same, as ultimately the purpose of any budgeting system is to determine whether one can afford the intended expenses based on the amount of money that is coming in and that can be used. So we need to understand that in businesses, we also focus a lot on forecasting, which means that they would have like a forecast for the following months, the following year, where they predict this is the amount of income that they are going to get, and they have some kind of targets as well. Questions, comments? What is the difference between the budget sent to a client and a budget for the business? I don't understand what you mean, a budget sent to a client. So we usually don't send a budget to a client. We send a client an invoice. So can you explain that a little bit further, Cindy, what you're trying to express? Pardon? Yes, you can open your mic, Cindy. Oh, you can't open your mic. Oh, okay. Why can't you open your mic? Is it the permissions, or there's something wrong with your mic? It's fine. Just open it and speak. Maybe I can hear you. I'd like to just get clarity on your point. It's fine if it's noisy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, let's say for instance, you have a company and client approaches and say, we have this budget, so we want you to work on it and we want some.
Okay, yeah, I can't hear you. Yeah, it's.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can't hear what you're saying. Okay. Type it in the chat and then I'll see if I can answer it. Okay. But basically, we don't send a budget. A budget isn't sent like, I'm not sure the context you're meaning, but if it's.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
But you're cutting
Okay,
off.
so what I'm saying is, you see, when you let's say I'm working on a campaign and I have to pay.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
So let's say you're doing a campaign and you're working for a client and you have to create a budget for them. So to tell them, okay, what you want is gonna cost how much. So what's the difference of that budget and from the budget that I create for my own business?
So
That's
remember,
what I'm asking.
yeah, so yeah, good question. Thanks, Cindy. So what it essentially means is that, remember, we can create a budget for any specific kind of task, any kind of event. Essentially the difference will be the time period that we are focusing on. So for business, we can do it for a long-term scope, right? And when it comes to when we send it to a client, it's probably on a short term for a certain project, etc. Okay, so usually we say, and we don't actually send them, we don't ever, it's not possible for us to send a client a budget. They will send us their budget, okay, if we are providing them with the service. So we can send them a list of what it would cost them, essentially, but they tell us their budget. Okay, they say, I have 50,000 Rand to spend on this event. And then we can take that 50,000 Rand and we break it down about how it's going to be spent. Okay, so that's what we would do. The main difference is that businesses focus on long-term, okay, and they do it in advance, they're budgeting, while for a certain project for a client, we would break it down in terms of the event or the scope that which it's needed. Okay. Thanks for that question, Cindy. Okay, so here we see an example of a personal budget, and we can see we have all kinds of daily living expenses, entertainment. Thank God I don't have childcare expenses. It's so expensive in South Africa. If you guys are ever thinking of having kids, please go look at the price of formula and nappies, okay? And then think about how that's going to affect your life. Okay, and then entertainment, health, gym, medical, etc. So this is an example of a personal budget. There's yes, guys, birth control is cheaper than nappies and formula. Does anybody do any kind of personal budgeting? Shirley, yes, I am going to be around next week. So my COVID is clearing up, thankfully, and I'm not coughing so much today, as you can hear. So yes, next week our classes are going to be on campus. We have 2 weeks left for lectures, by the way, before the semester ends. So some of you won't be seeing me next semester if you're going to do well and pass. But I will be there for the people who didn't manage to attain that, I think it's 50% pass mark. And remember, like guys, I always say to you, like failing is just like a normal thing. So just remember that if you don't manage to pass, okay, I'm just putting it out there. Like I'm one of those people who have no problem with failure. Debogang, you don't have a personal budget? Okay, so surely that's me as well, unfortunately, and we should stop that behavior. Okay, so guys, it's really, you know, this thing of money, it's really good to know how to manage it. And unfortunately, I think that for me, I think it was like not taught to me enough from an education point of view, either in my family or either in school. I don't know if you guys were taught about budgeting and the importance of finance at school. Yeah, Cindy wasn't taught, okay. Yeah, exactly. So this is also a failure of the governmental system, okay, in terms of it doesn't teach a lot of skills that are necessary for life. Like none of you know even how to like set up a tax number, how to calculate your taxes. Okay, and that's so important. It's such an important skill. Instead of learning about some ish in biology, I don't know, I'm just saying, just probably that part of biology is important, but I'm just saying there's some things like that were not necessary, I feel, and some that are really necessary for life. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Learn as you go. Exactly. But then, you know, the problem, Cindy, with like learning as you go is that it's only when you get into debt and then you're thinking about like, you know, I should have not spent and I should know how to manage my money properly, and there should be more education around this kind of topic. you know? Cool. So many people are leaving behind their pens and paper and using electronic planning devices on smartphones and tablets. So Excel, guys, is a really cool software for doing budgeting. I actually use Excel to calculate my taxes, and it's really, really a cool program. People can choose an app that best suits their needs and provides them with a user interface that is both interactive and accessible. So let's look at some programs. Okay, so there are a number of good budgeting apps available. So the first one is You Need a Budget. It's available on Mac and Windows, and you have templates, and it also teaches you good budgeting practices, guys. So have a look at these things, download them, use them. Yes, yes, Cindy, I agree with you. COVID definitely taught us how to budget. Me, I was saving so much money during COVID because I was scared that I wasn't going to get work, because when you work online, it's different. Before, remember, this is like my first job in South Africa in about 4 years. So we definitely did learn how to budget and save money. Although saving is not always good for the economy. For those of you who don't know, if you do any kind of economics, it's very necessary to spend money. Okay, because spending increases productivity, and then we need more output, so we create more jobs. Okay, just some economics for you. Yes, Shirley, Excel is cool. It is complicated. Yes, we need to, you know, guys, I didn't work with Excel. I was just busy doing a course this year with Excel. But I find that even if you do a course, so even if you learn it here in ADL 1, you constantly have to work with it so that you don't forget how to use it. So that's the main thing. So constantly practice with it. And it's a good idea, like I told you in the previous lecture, to constantly work with Excel, because it's so needed in businesses. Like, I know if I knew Excel, I could change my career very quickly. Maybe I need to learn Excel, become proficient in it. Okay, so yes, that's the first one. You need a budget. The second one is Budget Pulse. And it's uncomplicated and easy to use. It allows you to manage financial accounts and track saving goals and then communicate these goals. Then we have PocketSmith. It's a personal financial planning app that makes use of the calendar to help you make budgeting forecasts. And you can have other apps such as financial accounts and management and saving goals. And then Calendar Budget is a free app that uses a calendar as its interface, and it shows you how income and expenses will be affected in the future. It does not automatically download transactions. So what I find, guys, you know, if you have to find an app, make sure that you get one where you can just simply like scan quickly a receipt and then it tracks it. It's not a lot of management. But guys, you know, we always think, even I think, you know, this is so much admin to do, like to track all my expenses in this way. But really, if we do that, we become so like thrifty and I'm looking for the word to say savvy, but we become so financially savvy that it can help us a lot in the long run. You know, we can one day become billionaires or whatever. Just saying, maybe it is possible. So yeah, like track it, try to track it. I'm also going to try, so we can even do it together. Cool. Then we have Budget by Snowman Creative Solutions LLC. LLC is a way a company registers itself in America. And it offers a variety of budgeting apps that are compatible with both Mac and Windows. They also have a smartphone app available that syncs to the desktop versions. And this app allows you to use virtual envelopes, which show you how much money is available to spend in each of your budgeting spending categories. It also includes a calendar for budget reminders and tracking of investments. Budgeting apps should enhance your budgeting skills and make budgeting more convenient and more useful in your day-to-day life. You can choose an app that will meet your needs at a minimal cost. Some apps are even free, as highlighted above. So yes, guys, get an app, check your spending, check your expenses. You know, if you do it correctly now at this level, when you get like more money coming into your account, will be very useful for you, and you can learn how to save money, buy your first car or buy your first house, etc. Questions, comments? Shirley says she'll find things that will require you need to use Excel. Yes, that's a great idea, guys. Find things that will make you use Excel. Okay. So I was also trying to do that, to be honest with you. I was even like asking my friends, do you have any Excel work for me? So that I can just get more experience with it. I was even willing to do it for free, to be honest, because I really wanted to build up my Excel skills. So yes, that's a great idea. Okay, who can tell me what simple interest is? Or who wants to try? Like, even if you get it wrong. Shirley says, I'm motivated to start budgeting, but after this lecture, the motivation will be gone. Shirley, so I'm holding it to you to it, and anybody else, right? So I know that we only have a few weeks left together, but you guys will see me on campus from time to time. So I'm holding you, you can hold me to it, and I'll also hold you to it. We can try to do it together, and we'll download an app and we can see how we do things and if we are consistent with it. It is going to require effort though. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it, to be honest, but we can try. Okay. It's a really good skill to develop. And I think, as they say, it takes about 3 months to develop a habit. Yes, Kylie, so?
I'm not sure, but then I know like simple interest is when, oh my gosh, when you have an annual amount,
Yeah.
and then you have the formula has annual amount, principal, and then you have your interest, but it doesn't grow as much as compound interest.
Okay, good try. That's a good try. Shirley, one of the methods used to calculate interest on a loan. Okay, Shirley, that's fantastic. That's true. I think simple interest is when you take a loan or something. Good try, Lebogang. Simple interest is the way to calculate interest, an interest charge. Okay, good. So all of those answers are somewhat correct. So yes, it does differ from compound interest. So let's just see how. Okay. So when you are looking to purchase something that is very expensive, such as a car or a house, or you would like to obtain capital to start a small business, you are likely going to have to borrow money. Borrowing money costs money. Okay, guys, I want to go into the second lecture before I continue with this, because I'm going to explain a lot and then maybe we're going to miss, like it's going to go into the second lecture. So let me just put the link for the second lecture. Okay, so here's the link. So you can go there and I'll meet you there in 2 minutes. Everybody, please go into the second meeting. Guys, let's just wait a few minutes to see who else joins us, 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll start. And then also today, I'm also going to be taking any questions about the assessment. I'm going to be talking about plagiarism, which is very important. If I am your lecturer next year, we need to remember that I'm going to be a lot stricter than I am now. Okay, so I'm just reminding you about that quickly before we get into that actually. Okay, all right, so let's continue. Right, so as I was saying about borrowing costs money. Now guys, why do you think borrowing costs money?
Because there's interest.
But like why? Why are they charging interest? Why don't they just say, okay, yes.
Ma'am, I'm not sure why, but
Guys,
yeah.
who knows who wants to guess why? Why don't they just say, okay, here's 10,000 rand? Yes, Trigger.
Because, ma'am, it's a business, ma'am, and they're trying to make profits. They can just give you 10K and then expect you to bring 10K as it is. They're not going financially as a business. They need to build money.
Okay, good, Trigger. Great, Trigger. Good. So guys, also borrowing costs money because when you think about it, right? Say I give you 10,000 rand. Good, Cindy. So I give you 10,000 rand. Now, instead of giving you that 10,000 rand, I can take that same 10,000 rand and put it into the stock market, and that 10,000 rand is going to earn interest. Okay, so maybe I lend you 10,000 rand over 6 months, right? And then over that 6 months, if I had that money in the stock market, it's going to make money. So this is why essentially they charge you interest, because that money could have been doing something else and earning money for just existing. Okay. So the money you pay to borrow money from a bank or another type of institution is called interest. Trigger, please put your hand down. Paying interest on a loan means you are basically paying for not having to repay the full amount of money loaned upfront. Of course, you paid over 6 months, 3 months, etc. The bank also pays you interest on the money you keep in your accounts with them because they in turn borrow your money to lend to others. So I don't know if you guys know that. So with banks like Standard Bank, ABSA, etc. So what you can do, say you have like 20,000 rand or you have a large amount of money, and then you can put it in these like 30-day or 60-day accounts. So they're going to keep, you give them your money to keep. They actually take that money and they lend it out to others, if you didn't know. And they pay you interest on the money that you keep in that account. Okay. It's not always a lot of money, a lot of interest. Okay. But good, Cindy. I'm glad that you know about that. But it's like minimal interest, but it's still a way that you can make some money. It's better actually to put your money into the stock market. And then I'm going to give you guys some really good advice. You can go here because I use this platform and you can learn how to invest money on a platform. Okay, and they even have, it's in the chat, they even have a dummy account. So they'll give you like 100,000 rand in this dummy account, and then you play around with this dummy account and you see how you invest that money into stocks and then what happens to that money. So go on there, have a look at it, just to divert a little bit, but to give you some life skills as well about how to invest money into stocks and the different kinds of stocks. These days, people are also investing in NFTs, which forms part of blockchain, but that's a little bit complicated to get into right now, but you guys should be learning about these things. Shirley says, banks, they steal our money. They always deduct money from accounts without permission. It's not only banks. Let me tell you, if I wasn't self-employed, I would be crying. And I feel so sorry for South Africans, because essentially for me, what happens is all this money gets deducted from my tax. But for other people, it's coming off their incomes. Like it's not like a tax deduction even. So even if you guys notice, if you get a contract in South Africa, Vodacom or whatever, if you have a cell phone contract, you'll notice that every month, the amount changes that you have to pay. Even guys, can you imagine if you have, let's say Vodacom, for example, has 20 million subscribers, and then they take 50 cents from 20 million subscribers. That's 10 million rand. So think about how much money they're actually stealing from us. And it's not only banks, it's a lot of companies when they do this, when you have contractual agreements with them. Yes, Sugar, you want to say something? Or is your hands up from the last time? But let me just put your hand down. So yeah, guys, I mean, you know, the consumer rights in South Africa are, it's terrible. You know, I mean, I don't know if I told you guys this, but even when you go to a gym and you take out a gym contract, like if you cancel that, if you say you take out a gym contract for 2 years and you cancel that contract, like after the first year, you have to pay 40% of that whole year that you're not using to the gym, even though you won't be attending. It's a huge scam. That's why I love exercising and I love going to the gym, but I don't have a gym contract since I got back to South Africa for this reason. Because it's crazy. I don't know if you guys experienced anything about this, but I just feel like, you know, in South Africa, we have so few rights. The consumer has so few rights, and it's just so difficult for us, honestly. It's very difficult. Yeah, exactly, Sugar. I don't even have, like, I canceled my Virgin Active, and that's when I paid like so much money to them. That's why I won't even take out another account. So if you see me on campus and I'm really big and fat, now you know why, okay? Just saying. Right, so let's continue. So paying interest on a loan means you are basically paying for not having to repay the full amount of money loaned upfront. Okay. So yes, you're taking out this money and you're not paying it back immediately. Of course, the bank also pays you interest. I said this already, on the accounts you keep with them, because they borrow money to lend to others. Cool. So try understanding the value of, I'm not sure why Kailuso is saying, wow, she's shocked about something. I'm not sure what. She'll tell me in the chat. So trying to understand the value of interest and how one calculates interest is important, because it will allow you to manage your finances in a responsible manner and prevent you from accumulating unnecessary debt. Okay, so we should know. So I was telling the other class, guys, if you go into any kind of financial institution, we were even talking about loan sharks, right? You need to ask them, like, what kind of interest are you giving me? And what is it, like simple interest, is a compounded interest? So we need to think about, so we need to think about the interest they are charging us, because essentially we are paying more money to them for taking the money that they give us, okay, on the principal, like Kaliso said. So by investing your money and making interest work in your favor, you can increase your money and make it work for you. Interest is usually quoted as a rate and is expressed as a percentage of the total amount of money borrowed. We call the original amount of money borrowed the principal. Interest rates are usually calculated per year, which is often expressed as a per annum or PA amount. Okay, so I also just want to tell you guys that, you know, not all debt is bad. I know that, you know, we have this thinking where we always think, oh, debt is such a bad thing, right? But it's not always bad. Who can try to think about an instance where debt can actually be a good thing for us in terms of our financial well-being, or working towards our financial well-being? Yes, Cindy?
Can I try?
Yes, you can try.
Okay, so for instance, let's say you take an account, because if you take an account and you don't take something and you pay it so good, you're actually increasing your credit score, so that you can take something bigger than the small account.
Good. So very good, Cindy. That's great. That's a great thing to remember. Shirley. Okay, so let me talk about Cindy's point first. So yes, so guys, remember that in many, well, not in every country, because when I was in Korea, I just basically just took like credit whenever they just gave it to me. Well, not a loan, actually, no, sorry, I'm mistaken. So they did give me like a phone or whatever. But yes, in countries, I'm sure it's in all countries, they look at your credit score and you have to build your credit score. And the only way to kind of build your credit score is to take out an account, unfortunately. Okay, whatever account it is. I'll be so honest with you guys. I only had my first account 4 years ago. Okay, and it's because I also had a very negative feeling towards debt, and I also don't like debt. And what I realized was it was actually an Edgar's account, and you know, Edgar's is tied to Jet. And then when I was looking at this Edgar statement, I was just looking at all the charges, and it's absolutely crazy. Like, I don't know what they charge me for. Like some things that it's just like, why am I paying these fees? And then I ended up closing the account. But yes, you do need to build a good credit score, unfortunately. So if you take something small like an Edgar's account, and then you can go bigger, you can take a phone contract, and then you can go to a car, and then you can go to a house. So in this way, if they see that you're constantly paying your debt responsibly, they know that you're a responsible payer, then you can actually get more acute, you can accumulate more assets. Yes, Cindy, a Mr. Price account. But I didn't even know Mr. Price has an account. Guys, but you know what? I do buy clothes on Mr. Price, and I don't know if you guys are having the same problem as me. But guys, it doesn't even last like one season. Like my pajamas are like tearing everywhere. I don't know, guys. So yeah, but what I said makes sense. Taking a debt to, yes, exactly. So that's exactly what I was talking about when I was talking about why debt can be a good thing. So I know I'm diverting a little bit here with different kinds of topics, but yes, debt can definitely be a good thing when you take it out for a purpose to make money. So for example, a lot of business people do this, and people who have a lot of money, right? So what they do is they take you know, in Sandton and everywhere else, even Joburg South, not only in Sandton, everywhere in South Africa, we have complexes. So what investors do, they buy these, or they take out loans for these complexes, right? So let's say a complex costs 650,000 Rand for, let's say, a 1-bedroom. So they take out a loan for 650,000 Rand, and then they get someone to live in this apartment, and this person is basically paying off that loan. So they're not spending any of their own money. They are taking somebody else's money to pay off their debt, and at the end of the day, they're going to have a freestanding apartment. Okay, so yes, you can work really smart in this way. Okay. I have airtime advanced debt. How much, Trigger? Let us know. But yes, it is a struggle. Shirley says, go buy another SIM card. Shirley's teaching us the wrong things here. Please don't listen to Shirley. Okay, we need to be responsible. Right. Some days Mr. Price is failing us. It's true. Shirley's giving us advice here in the chat. Okay, right. So cool. Yeah, interesting. So let's go back to this calculation of this simple interest. Okay, so we said the original amount is called the principal, right? So now we're going to look at the difference between simple interest and compound interest. So for example, let's say you take out a 3,000 Rand loan from the bank with the interest rate of 10% per annum. Now here we can see the interest rate is fixed. It's not changing. By the way, I'm just going to give you some economics insights. Usually the banks set their interest rates from the interest rate that is set by the government, which is the SARB. Okay, so the SARB usually controls the interest rates. That's why you'll always hear in the news sometimes they are decreasing the interest rate by 100 basis points, etc., etc. So they do these kinds of things to stimulate the economy, because when the interest rate is low, people go out and take more credit and buy things. Okay, so it stimulates the economy. Okay, just some further insight into economics. So the principal would then be 3,000, and the total amount would have to be paid back after 1 year can be worked out as 3,000 times 10%, which is 300. This means that after 1 year of borrowing the money, the borrower person who borrowed the money will have to pay the bank 300 Rand in interest. The borrower, however, also has to pay back the principal. Therefore, in total, the borrower must pay the bank 3,000 plus 300, and that's 3,300. The total repayment of the loan would therefore be 3,300. Any questions or comments? While we're on the topic of Mr. Price, guys, clothes is not an asset. Okay, I just want to let you know. I know a lot of us spend so much money on clothes. Sometimes we think brand names are everything, but it's not really. Just whilst we're on the topic, some saving tips. I know some people, I won't mention any names, might disagree with me. Okay, let's continue. Okay. So, but then what if the profit that the business makes is amount that needed? Yes, exactly, Nombushle. So that's exactly what we were saying about how debt can be a good thing, right? Because now, despite that, let's say we take out 10,000 Rand and we want to create a business and we have this great idea and it's definitely going to work. So that's exactly it. We take out this loan, we create a business, and we should all try to be a little bit entrepreneurial, even if we have like a side hustle, right? It's always good to have a side hustle. So then you take out the loan and then you invest in the business, and then you end up with profit because you did things correctly, you sold items in the right way, and then you pay off that loan, and then you still have 5,000 Rand. And then you still have to give the government 2,000 Rand. I'm just saying. But yeah, okay. So yes, like it's true, guys. So it's good to be entrepreneurial in any way that we can, or try to be, right? Even some things, like some people just don't think it's a good idea, but it actually, you just need to push yourself and persevere with any idea. We know that in South Africa, people can make money out of anything. We hear these stories every day. I was reading a story the other day about this dude who's putting what is it? Chicken feet in cans. I don't know if anybody has bought it yet. I haven't bought it yet. But yeah, there's this dude that during the lockdown, he opened this company and he started like putting chicken feet into tins. I haven't seen it yet, but then I don't eat a lot of meat as well. But it's a good idea and he's making money with it, you know? And then, you know, it's like a simple idea. Okay. So, and also guys, like we always think that entrepreneurship has to be like something that's wow or amazing. Not really. It doesn't need to be magnificent or look amazing. An asset brings money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. So yes, clothes aren't assets. Yes, Trigger, school us. You're very good, like how Elisa says. Fantastic. Yes, so we need to look at assets, building assets. Okay. So simple interest financial institutions use different types of interest calculations for the different products and services they offer. Yes. So guys, remember that they'll charge different types of interest depending on what they're offering you and how they're offering it to you. Okay. Simple interest is when the same amount of interest is charged every year on the original principal as opposed to the accumulated amount of money. So guys, this is what we need to remember. The same amount of interest is charged. So if they're going to charge you 10% every single year until that amount is paid off. Okay, questions? So keep that in your mind when we're talking about simple interest as opposed to compound interest. And I'm not seeing people in the online lectures like my regulars. I don't know why. Where's, what's her name? Shirley, your friend, I forgot her name. Or not even your friend, but like your colleague, classmate. Right, so how do we calculate it? It's very simple. Yeah, actually. So for example, if you take a 3,000 Rand loan on an interest rate of 10% per annum for a 5-year period, we calculate the amount of interest as follows. 3,000 times 10% times 5 years, 300 times 5 is 1,500. Okay, and then we see the simple formula there, IPRT, this stands for interest equals principal times rate of interest times time. Okay, it's very simple. And well, it's simple for me. Does anyone have any questions so far about this? All right, so the amount of interest payable over the borrowing time would therefore be 1,500. Of course, the principal also has to be paid back to the bank along with this interest. So the total repayment amount that the borrower would have therefore to pay would be 3,000 plus 1,500 is 4,500. This means that after 5 years of borrowing money, the borrower will have to pay the bank 4,500. Yes. So we took the interest and the original amount, and then it came to 4,500. And then we need to ask ourselves always when we're taking out any kind of credit, is it worth it? Like, do we need it? And can we pay it off in this way? And is it fine for us to spend this kind of money? Shirley says, guys, choose your woman wisely. Also choose your man wisely, Shirley. They can also help you build 1 million or finish it. It works the same. Okay. And it's actually, what about these Tinder swindlers, guys? Taking all the money. Sure. Crazy stuff. I need to become one of those and just get all the money instead of working. Okay. It does definitely go both ways. Right. Questions, comments about simple interest and the calculation for simple interest? Okay, so we saw simple interest, right? And we said simple interest is essentially this line here, is the same amount of interest charged every year on the original principal. That's, so when you talk about the principal, we mean the original amount, as opposed to the accumulated amount of money. So who wants to try and guess from your understanding of simple interest, what is compound interest? Anyone? If you don't know, you can just say IDK in the chat. All right, so let's get into it. Good try, Level Khan, but it's in a certain way. So remember here, we're talking about simple interest and compounded interest, where we're both paying off a loan or investing. Okay, so let's get into it. Compound interest is the most commonly used type of interest. It is a type of interest calculation used when money is invested in particular in financial instruments and when repaying loans. So yes, usually when you invest money, I did give you guys that website, so please go have a look at it and register. And when you invest money, the interest is compounded, and this is why investing is great. So the compounded interest method calculates the interest rate on the accumulating amount of money borrowed. In other words, if a loan is being paid over a period of time, the interest per annum is calculated on the money or on the amount of money that is still owed, together with the interest owed for the year that has already passed. We're going to see an example. So compounded interest is therefore calculated by working out the interest for the first period, which is usually a year, then adding the interest to the total, and then using this latter amount to calculate the interest for the next year. And this process is continued until the loan period is over. So remember, we're going to look at an example of a year, but it can be for months as well. It can be any period in which they're calculating. So it can be every 2 months, every 4 months, every 6 months, every year, etc., etc. Questions, comments? No, nothing? Okay. Guys, you need to communicate with me because I can't see you. Remember, this is online, it's different. So please write no and communicate with me in the chat. Don't be lazy. Right. Thank you, Cindy. Right. So, for example, if you take out a 3,000 Rand loan, the interest rate at an interest rate of 10% per annum for a 5-year period, you would calculate the amount of compound interest as follows. So guys, how do we calculate it? This is how we do it. So in the first year, we say the loan is 3,000 Rand. That's the amount we took. Then the interest is 10%. So we say 3,000 times 10% gives us 300. So we add that 3,000 to the 300 and we get the amount of 3,300. So that's the loan amount at the end of the year. It's adding the interest for the first year. Then we get to the second year and we take that amount, 3,300, and we times it times the interest rate as well, 10%, and we get 330. And then we add those two together, it's going to give us 3,630. So we continuously work in this way until the loan is paid off. Okay, so that's the meaning of compounded. Okay, it adds the interest and then does the calculation again. Adds the interest and does the calculation again. Yes, it's interest on top of interest, but surely it also works when you're investing. So it's not only when you take out a loan. So think about investing and how you're going to invest your money and the platform that I gave you to invest your money. Okay, because in this way, your money is also going to be compounded. So Lebogang, now I remember in my matric year, we used to use simple and compound interest calculations a lot. Yes, good, Lebogang. That's great that you're recalling some of the information. It's good for investing. Yes, guys, it's good for investing. Okay. Also, I want to remind you that also these platforms that you can invest, they also charge you like money when you take out money or when you invest money. So we always need to be aware of the charges. You know, those TNCs that we see everywhere. We must always be aware of them. Okay. So it's a good idea to invest. It's a good idea if you're taking out a loan for a good purpose. Interest on top of interest on investments. Yes, not loans. Very good, Shirley. Okay, questions? All right, so we looked at this calculation and look, the original amount was 3,000. And then the total amount of having the borrower has to pay the bank is 4,831.53. So with compound interest, the amount of interest payable over a period of time increases quite significantly. Yes, because it's compounded. They're taking the principal and the interest and they're calculating the interest on that every year. So this results in high repayments, or in the case of investment, substantial growth in the initial amount of money invested. The above method is rather long when calculating compound interest. There's a formula that can be used to calculate compound interest more quickly. Okay, so here's the link. Let's open it up. And I can give it to you. But guys, it's rather simple. I don't think it's very difficult to calculate compound interest. So there's the link if you want to have a look at it, and it just shows you here how you would go about doing the calculation. But I personally do not think it's that hard. Okay. Who thinks it's difficult to calculate compound interest? I mean, there's no question on it in the assessment. Okay. So we see the formula FV equals P times 1 plus Rn. future value, which is the total amount that will have to be paid or the value of the investment, the principal, the annual interest rate, and the number of period or years. And then to use this formula, we calculate it as it is, and we see the calculation, and we get to 4,831.53. Okay. So most financial institutions calculate compound interest on loans and savings more than once in a year, even though the interest rate is quoted as a rate per annum. Yes. Banks usually calculate interest on loans and investments on a monthly or quarterly basis, like I was telling you guys. So it just depends on the basis on which the interest is taken. If the interest on the principal invested is calculated only once a year, this would mean there would be little growth in your investment. If the interest is calculated every 12 months, it means you will earn interest on top of interest more frequently, resulting in a more rapidly growing investment. Consequently, when calculating interest on investments and loans from the bank, the compound interest formula must be adjusted to suit the amount of times the interest is calculated in a year. So yes, we need to see how many times it's calculated. So we will go here and we will change the number of periods, for example. Okay. Questions? Comments? So we need to see, guys, this is important. It's an important life skill because we need to see how our money is being spent, how we are spending money. Okay, it's going to have an effect on our business if we go into business. Okay, if we want to buy a car, if we want to get a loan. Okay, these kinds of things. How many of you have student loans? Just out of curiosity. I was always telling you guys that education is so expensive in South Africa. So tough. But yeah, one of my friends has a student loan and she's like, it's so expensive. It's so expensive. And it is. And then you don't even know if you're going to get a job. And that's another thing. So yeah. So we need to make sure that we know how our money is being spent, what the interest is, etc. Questions about today's lecture or about Microsoft Excel or about the assessment? I'm reminding you, please reference correctly. I am definitely going to be stricter in the second assessment because I don't want you guys to go to second year and then you're failing the first assessment and then it's a reflection of me as a lecturer. Okay, so yeah, like there are many variations to the Harvard method. I do know this, okay, after some mistakes and some failures. So make sure that you maintain consistency. So if you're using it in one way, like that specific way that you're using it, make sure you use it throughout the assignment. Yeah, Shirley, it's crazy. The amount of money we have to pay for education is just crazy. I mean, I told you guys, like at WITS for 1 year is 100,000 Rand, and that's excluding all other costs. You know? So yeah, I don't know. Like in this country, we just suffer and suffer and suffer, honestly. And I even told you guys, this is why I have so many jobs, you know, because that's the only way I can live a good life here. And these other companies are not even in South Africa. And it's always good to get work out of South Africa because the conditions and the pay up is better than what they offer in South Africa. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? We have about 5 minutes. Anything on the assessment? We are going to go through the different types of writing, what is it, informative speech, etc. in the next few weeks before we finish. But does anyone have a question that they want to ask me about anything? We have 5 minutes. So next week, we are talking about the different learning styles and study skills. And we're going to use the Anderson textbook. Consider why understanding and knowing your learning style is important, as well as why effective study skills are necessary. Okay, so this module focuses a lot on life skills, actually. I mean, there is an English component, but English is necessary in all aspects of life. So yeah, I'm motivated. I'll have more jobs like you and live a soft life. Shelly, how do you know I live a soft life? I'm always working. It just looks like I live a soft life. I'm always working all the time. So yes. Any other questions? Comments? And then, yeah, guys, just also remember that. So guys, just also remember that what was I going to say? Yes, when you're doing the Harvard referencing, make sure that whatever website that you're looking at, it doesn't have an author before you quote, before you put in the title of the article. Because remember, like the Harvard system, you can either use the URL or you can use the title of the article if there's no author. Okay, so make sure it has no author before you use the title, because yeah, I just don't like that title thing. Okay. Okay, you travel to different countries for fun. Yes, but you need to also consider, like, Shirley, my age. You don't, I know I look very young, but I'm not as young as you think I am. Okay, so guys, let's leave it at that. And I will see you guys next week on campus. Thanks for coming to the lecture. On Site For Me, you can just upload all the info you have and it will do everything for you. Thank you for that piece of advice. Shirley gave us some good advice. I was using Site For Me earlier today when I was doing some of my VITS work. So yes, cool guys. Any other thing, just send me an email, and good luck when you are doing your assessments. If you have any questions, send me an email. Bye, everybody. Yes, cite this for me. Bye, Shirley. Bye, Trigger. Bye, Lebogang.